Hey everyone, I'm Arthur Kade for Celebrity Page, sitting down with Lauren Ash from NBC Superstore. Hey everyone, it's me, Arthur Kade. You know, Lauren Ash, I was going to tell you how much of a fan I was of you until you told me you're doing Hamilton tomorrow and I have to work, and now I'm not such a fan. I'm jealous.
I know, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't be broadcasting this to people.
God.
I recognize I'm not making myself any friends.
You're in New York. You make enemies when you tell people you're going to Hamilton and they're not.
Well, listen, I'm Canadian, so I mean, I feel like that has to give me some sort of pass, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's
It's
true.
an American musical, American history, I'm trying to learn about your culture.
God, it's about to get rewritten. Get ready. I am really a fan because you are terrific on Superstore. I was just telling you, I was such a fan of The Office,
Yeah.
and you remind me so much of Dwight, and it's hilarious. And I want to, if I were an actor, that's a character I would want to play. Someone who's just as straight-laced, crazy, and bizarre as Dina and Dwight are, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a gift. I mean, I actually have not actually seen that much of The Office, so the comparisons to Dwight are very flattering because he was such a beloved character and he is so funny. But it's not influenced for me. So it's so cool that it's similar characters that kind of like both grew, separately from one another.
I'm more astounded that you haven't seen The Office. Like, let's cut the interview and let's just
be-
go watch
I
reruns.
shouldn't be admitting this. I know I shouldn't be admitting this, especially since
is an NBC
I
property.
know, and our creator was like a producer on that show. I shouldn't say I've never seen any of it. I've seen some of it, but people like are hugely into that show, which is great. So any comparisons that they make to us and our show are so lovely and flattering. I hope it is as prolific.
People are also into your show. Superstore is
Yeah.
killing it. And you
Thank
and America
you.
Ben, such a phenomenal trio. Talk to me about getting to work with them and just putting this show to air.
From the very first table read, all of us just immediately clicked, and it was kind of, fluke. Like you don't know what you're walking into. These are strangers, that you've never met before, and we all just kind of immediately fell in love with each other. So it's been like a true dream, honestly, which sounds very cheesy, but is very true. I mean, we, as a cast, we've vacationed together. If we go more than 2 weeks without seeing each other, then we start to get antsy and plan a dinner. We have a group text that we're on every single day. So it's like a little family over at Universal Studios in Los Angeles. It's a real fun thing.
You're like the fifth actor that I've talked to in the last 2 weeks who keeps telling me about these cast group texts.
Yeah.
Everyone always has a funky title. What's the title for the
Well,
group text?
season 2, Mark McKinney requested that we would call the group text The Deuce. And we were like, that they're, okay, never mind. It was like, we're not talking about dumps, but The Deuce. It's so ridiculous.
awesome.
But yeah, we're on it all the time. And it's so truly fun. Everybody gets along. Everybody loves being paired with everybody else. It's a lot of fun. We just had America direct an episode, so that's also very exciting. Her first directorial debut is going to be a Superstore episode.
I love the diversity your show has.
Yeah.
Talk about TV being ahead of movies in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Talk to me about being part of a project that's able to feature such diversity and, again, be ahead of the curve because we need more diversity.
Well, one of my castmates, Colton Dunn, actually said something that was really brilliant about that, which was just that it was like the show is America. Like it's like this is what America looks like and is like, so why wouldn't we just represent what's real? Which I thought was like such a matter-of-fact way of looking at it, which is really true. I mean, again, like there's been shows in the past that have been, a group of 6 beautiful white friends, and it's like that was cool then, but was never realistic. And it's great that we're in a period where we're embracing what is real and really what makes up this amazing country. I mean, I'm not even American. You know what I mean? I'm an immigrant, if you want to look at it that way. So it's really cool to be a part of something that just embraces that, and that's just how it is and normal, which is real life.
It is real life. Speaking of real life and speaking of immigrants, we are seeing, I've been talking to so many actors about this. I feel like there's never been activism in Hollywood the way we're seeing it right now. And everybody, no matter which way you lean, talks about there's uncertain times right now. What do you think about the activism going on in Hollywood? Good thing, bad thing, indifferent?
A lot of people, actors get like a really bad rap. There's obviously a movement that it's like you're there to entertain us, not to talk to us about your political beliefs, which I think is a kind of slippery slope, because I don't know that it's really fair to say that to anybody, regardless of what their profession is.
Sure.
I mean, we're all kind of allowed to have our own political leanings and to be active in whatever way we choose to be. Certainly some actors like to take advantage of the fact that they have a platform and get both commended and chastised for that. But I think more than anything, the Women's March that just happened in Los Angeles was such an inspiring thing to be a part of. They were expecting whatever it was, 20,000 people, and 750,000 people showed up. And, those aren't just actors. That's like almost a quarter of the population of Los Angeles came to just be a part of that march. And it was, I just walked around and cried, there's something that's very powerful to me about people coming together, regardless of, again, which way you politically lean or whatever. That was such an example of 750,000 people is a lot of people. They're not all going to have necessarily all of the same views, and they all came together for a common cause. So I think it's really inspiring, and it's. Again, you want to get really full circle here. Hamilton. I feel like it's all like it's the new Hamilton.
You have to bring that up again. Just when I was starting to like you.
Tomorrow night, okay?
Just when I was starting to like you, Lauren, you just flushed it down the tubes.
I did. But it's a pretty crazy time. So it's been really interesting to be a part of that kind of stuff.
I was thinking about you because being a female comedian in Hollywood, we just lost one of the all-time greatest, maybe the all-time greatest, Mary
Yes.
Tyler Moore. Talk to me about being a female comedian in Hollywood. I feel like we're seeing an influx of tremendous talent right now, from the Amy Schumers of the world to the Julia Louis-Dreyfuses. I feel like it's an all-time high. Talk to me about being part of that group.
Well, what's amazing is that from the beginning of time, women have been funny, but it's for some reason only becoming press now in the past 10 years. So it's cool. It's like it's a cool thing that people are finally starting to get involved or get on board with something that has always been there. It's a great time. It's a cool time. It's great being on a show where you're not the only woman. Even when I was starting out at Second City in Toronto, we had a cast. The cast was of 6, and there was 4 men and 2 women. And it was like, really? It was 2005. That feels like such a step backwards. Why wouldn't it be 3 and 3? It's just so it's crazy to me that it is still a conversation. It's crazy to me that it is something that is still on a level remarkable. Which is great. And again, having America direct an episode for us sounds like it's whatever, but I'm like, but that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? Cool. That she didn't direct an episode of Ugly Betty. So it's pretty awesome that there's, we have a lot of female directors that are coming in. We have great female writers. I think right now we have more female writers on our show than male. Not that it's a competition, but it's absolutely a great time to be a woman in comedy, certainly. And yes, the loss of people like Mary Tyler Moore and Carrie Fisher, such strong voices for women in comedy, has been it's been a reflective time, I will say. I feel like there was a lot of pavement that was paved for us by those 2 ladies specifically. So it's a pretty sad thing to lose them.
Are you a fan of the reboots? Ghostbusters was the start. Now they just released the picture for Ocean's 8, which is going to be an all-female cast with the Ocean's reboot.
My question about Ocean's 8 is, why is it only 8 instead of 11? Is that because we make 75% less than men, or what is that? I honestly don't know. I'm very curious.
I brought that up to somebody this week, and I'm like, how did they arbitrarily come up with 8? Was it we were able to get these 8 A-listers under contract, and we're going Ocean's 8?
Yeah, we don't have 3 more actresses in Hollywood. That's it. We've tapped out. I'm very excited about it. It's the only thing I will say that I think is unfortunate is that it sometimes gets viewed as being a novelty. And I think something like Bridesmaids, for example, which was just an original movie that wasn't a reboot of anything and was so funny across the board, is a great example that female-centric things can succeed and people find them hilarious, and it doesn't need to be a gimmick. Do you know what I mean? I think so many people get caught up on, especially with the Ghostbusters thing, get caught up on that it's this gimmick, it's whatever, and it's maybe we just need to keep doing the original stuff, guys. Let's not ruin this for all the women. You know what I'm saying?
When you look at female comedians, who were some of the ladies that you looked up to? Who were the ones that you said, I want to position my career similar to person X or person Y?
The earliest memory that I have of that was watching Clue and watching Madeline Kahn, and I was like 7 at the time, which again, I asked my mother, was that an appropriate film choice for a 7-year-old? But about murder. Anyway, neither here nor there. But I remember at the time, and it sounds so cheesy, but I remember at the time watching that and thinking to myself in my like child brain, like, like that woman is the funniest one in the movie. And that was the first time I remembered feeling like I'd seen a woman be the funniest one. Like, I think all the stuff I had seen prior to that, it was like the women were playing the straight roles. They were setting up the jokes for the dudes or whatever. Again, I can't even give an example of what that would have been as a 7-year-old viewer, but I remember very vividly having that moment of thinking, wow, she was the funniest one. I want to do that. I want to be the funniest one. I want to be like her. So I can literally recite that movie word for word from top to bottom. I've seen it about 1,000 times. But she's like such an icon to me and so funny in everything that she does. But that performance in that movie was like the game changer for me.
When you look at the diversity in your cast, I've been talking to so many different actors and actresses over the last few weeks. Oscar nominations came out, and we saw 6 African-American actors nominated for Oscars, which is such a great step in the right direction. Talk to me about seeing the diversity in Hollywood become recognized.
You know, to me, the movie of the year was Moonlight. I think that it was beautiful. It was beautifully shot. It was beautifully performed, beautifully written. And I was just saying earlier that I feel like it was a story that we haven't heard before. You know, it was an angle on a story that was unique and new and important. And I think that to me, it was such a cool thing to watch, was that it was something that I didn't feel, not that, you know, everything, again, we're talking about reboots and stuff like that. It's like everything has already been done, like that kind of very jaded way of looking at Hollywood. But that to me stood out as something that it was like, this is something that is unique and wonderful and I feel like needs to be celebrated. So I can't remember what all it got nominated for, but the main guy, like the main character, like every incarnation of him deserves awards. Those kids were so good. The adult, and I don't know his name, I can't think of it, but they were all so stellar that really to me was like next level. I have not seen all of the films, truthfully, that have been nominated, but now that there's 10 films being nominated, how are we supposed to get through that? Who has time for that?
You've got a show to film.
I'm working 12 hours a day. Come on.
Even though your show is a lighthearted comedy, it tackles real world issues. It talks about body image. It talks about, again, diversity. It talks about essentially living in a middle-class life, working at Cloud9, what it's like. Talk to me about being able to tackle these topical issues.
You know, it's funny because I don't think it was ever Justin's intention, Justin Spitzer, our show creator. I don't think it was his intention to necessarily like be an issues show, but it kind of just happened organically because, again, we're dealing with a group of people that represent a real part of America and ultimately represent all of America. And these are real things that come up, you know? So there was like a huge controversy because we had an abortion episode. Well, our abortion episode was like 2 lines that just mentioned like, you know, that we had a pregnant teenage character on the show and somebody said something about like, oh, well, it's great that you kept the baby. And she's like, oh, I just couldn't get a ride to get an abortion. And then someone said like, I would have driven you. And then it's like, you can't offer rides to abortions. And that was kind of it. And it was so controversial to people, but it was just like, but that's a real conversation. Like it wasn't like a plot point. It wasn't, you know, being hammered over the head that we had an opinion about whether that was right or wrong. It was just presenting something that is real to people and exists in society. So I think that's kind of the cool thing that we've been able to do is pointing out those things that happen, but not doing it in a way that feels like it's preachy or on a soapbox. It's just saying like, hey, here's this thing that's happening. Remember this? That's true. That's relevant to all of us. And definitely something else that we've tackled that has been really relevant is the whole union idea that in the end of the first season, there was a whole bunch about that, the fears that the employees were going to unionize. And it's such a real thing. I actually worked in a store in Canada, much like the Cloud9. It was called Zellers. It's our version of like a Kmart type store. And there was so much craziness about that. Like I remembered you'd be like straightening shoes and I'd be like, what is this? And then I'd pull out this like, are you being asked to unionize? Call the people that are really like, it was like all this anti-union paraphernalia. And then, you know, you'd go 2 aisles down and then what is is this? And it would be a pro-union pamphlet. So it was like such a bizarre thing for as a teenager, being like not really understanding that concept, but is really real for a lot of the people that work in those jobs. And those are, the workers' rights and all of those things. And a living minimum wage is something that is very relevant. So I think it's great that we get to like hold up that mirror to society,
As talented as America is, as an actress and now as a director, one of the things she's really amazing at is being an activist. She's been speaking everywhere. When you look at women in media today, I feel like there's so much of a louder voice right now. Talk to me about seeing so many women having a voice in media.
Well, I think that the reality is that we kind of have to. Mostly because, and at the risk of getting super political, I think during, and again, I'm a Canadian, I'm here on a green card, I can't vote in your election. I will preface all of this by saying that. But I think what we learned during this last election cycle is that there is still a disparity. There is still a disparity about what people's views about who women are and what that means, and that perhaps, the idea that the president could sexually assault a woman and still become a president, for example, is a real thing. So I think that now more than ever is the time for the women in media to keep their voices loud, because it's obvious. I think it's easy to kind of get complacent and think that we've come a long way, but I think that this last election kind of taught us that maybe we haven't come as far as we should have.
What blows my mind is I read you were an introvert as a child, and I'm sitting here with you. I'm like, there's no way.
I was like terrified to speak as a little child. Yeah.
How? You're like all personality.
I know.
I'm about to hand over my mic and let you host the show. I'm like, she's better at this than I am. Take over.
Not at all. Yeah, I was like, it was until I was 4. I was like totally scared of people other than my family. I like wouldn't talk to anybody that wasn't in my family. And so my mother signed me up for modeling classes of all things, and it brought me out of my shell. And it was just like dumb little runway modeling in like small town malls in like super tiny towns in Canada. But like for whatever reason, when I like got up there and like did my model walk, it just like brought me out of my shell. And then when I was 7, I auditioned for my first school play, inspired by Madeline Kahn, and that's been it ever since.
That's the moment where you say, okay, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, hopefully.
I did. I really did. When I was a little kid, I really did. And then, I'm sorry, I was 8.5, and I auditioned, and I got the lead in our school play, playing Professor Owl in When the Hippos Crashed the Dance. And then it was like, and it was that same kind of thing where everyone in my family was like, Lauren's doing this? Like this little child who is like terrified of people is now like on stage in the lead role in her school play. So it just really, really, just like that, can all change.
Does it blow you away to see the fan reaction? America's now had 2 hit shows. Like she's used to this. Like she's like, oh, ugly Betty. If this is going to succeed, I'm part of it. But for you, it's like, hey, you have a hit show under your belt. Is it like blowing your mind?
It's it's been a long road. I had a long career up in Canada before coming down to the States, and so I'm really glad that I have had that, to have that perspective and really enjoy it. I think sometimes, celebrities will fall into these pitfalls where they get a lot of like crazy success when they're like 18, 19, and then they lose their minds. I often defend Justin Bieber for this reason. I'm like, he was given a lot of money.
Another Canadian.
I know, and I just defend them all. I'll defend all the Canadians. But yeah, I was like, he was given a lot of money as a teenage boy. I mean, what do you expect? I mean, he obviously, any teenage boy would go crazy. But it's, and you know what? It's really great. Not because it feels like it's owed to me in any way, but because it really feels like it's like, man, I really did it. I really I started that journey when I was, Professor Owl, and I really saw it through. Like, I kind of like
Professor
really
Al to a hit network show in America. Things are okay.
Things went okay.
And you get to see Hamilton.
And I get to see Hamilton. I know, what a gift.
I used to like her.
So sorry.
Make sure to catch NBC Superstore. You're awesome. Every Thursday on NBC. I would keep you here all day, but you have better things to do, like see Hamilton, do Seth Meyers.
So
I mean, whatever.
Sorry. You know what? But it would be great. Let's hang out for a while.
No, you've got better things to do.